We could not. What? Okay, we're good.
We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
What does that mean?
We're live.
Hi guys, whoever's there. Um, I talked last week about my father until I was about the age of 13 or so, 12 or 13. Now I've not been sticking with the ages very much, but I have been. I still want to talk about my father, and you guys can interrupt at any point in any subject that I'm talking about. This is really so that you can ask any question that you have in mind to ask somebody who's been repairing things for a long time and still learning. And I'm happy to share. And that would be why the there are what almost more than 1,400 videos out there because of her hard work, my wife, and my desire to share with you guys. It is not paying very well at all. It pays right at 500 a month, a little.
600. Somewhere between 4 and 6.
Yeah. So and she works like 30 hours, 40 hours a week. So 120 hours pays 405 to 600. Think about that. See, even if it pays 600, it does not. Um, if it paid 600, she's working 120 hours.
And worked weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks with
for
no pay at all.
for years with no pay at all. Okay, so no, it's not about the money. It's because I want to share with you guys. Um, but I am talking, and you can interrupt. And what I wanted to talk about was, as best I can, and this none of this is scripted, never is. But about how I wanted to talk about the good things about my father when I talk about him because he's gone. And so whenever I start talking about him from the age of around 12, 13 and on, nothing happened particularly, noteworthy. But I do remember that as I became, 12 or 13, let's see, you would start when you're six, so you'd be in the sixth grade. Um, I'd already been through a lot of different things that made it clear to me that I wasn't exactly the same, nor is anybody the same as anybody else. And my father still accepted that situation. And I don't remember him saying, "Son, you're totally different." He didn't. He just kept working with me, showing me how to do things patiently. I really need to give it props for that because the patience that it took for somebody like me. I didn't have any kids like me. I don't have any kids like me.
Your kids were actual angels
Well,
compared to mine.
so I mean, my dad. Now you're dealing with somebody who could take your car apart, but I didn't because my dad had been instructing me sometimes with the palm of his hand. Do not do those things that you know better than to do, and so he was showing me. And I would think that anytime somebody is dealing with a child who is ADD, ADHD, whatever you want to call it, and that wasn't a thing. There was not an abbreviation or anything anybody was talking about back then.
You were just a pain in the butt.
I was.
Who got
We were
pains in the butt?
hoping, including me. I didn't know why, but we were all hoping I would get better and I would grow up to be a decent human being. I wanted to be. I didn't know what a decent human being, but I know I wanted to be what my parents wanted me to be. I was like, well, okay, um, I need to act better. Why? I don't know. They want me to, so I'm going to. And they were my dad particularly was very very patient with me, considering particularly if you want to. So here is a man who has already picked up 2 boys and just took them in like I never saw him ever treat them any different than me. As a matter of fact, they got less spankings than I did. I think I'm gonna tell you again. My dad told me when I was in my 50s, he said that you got more spankings than all of your brothers and sisters put together. All of them put together, I got more spankings. And do I resent my dad for that? No way, man. There's no way possible I would resent him for that. I deserve every bit of it. Even if I could think of one time when he accidentally, accused me of something I didn't do, I know full well now that I did so many things I didn't get spankings for. So many things. Okay? You would not want to mention to me that you could do this or do that and something unusual would happen. I would do it. You wouldn't want to tell me about that. Like putting smart back in the day, the little Smarties, you could get in a little vial, little bitty pills. You could put one in a Pepsi or a Coke, and it would just. Oh man, you show somebody like me that, it's a forever thing. You've got to be patient and deliver discipline to a child like that. You have to. I mean, you cannot allow that child to run wild. I mean, he would go around chopping people's feet with an axe because he just thought, well, they jump around. You have to teach them
what's right and what's wrong.
How to act. And so when I say by the time I'm 12 or 13, I'm out very active because I was bedridden a lot until 8 or 9, somewhere around 8. So now he's teaching me how to act. Period. To be polite, to say yes sir and no sir and yes ma'am and no ma'am to anybody who is your elder. Okay, that would be somebody that's 25, 30 years old, and here I am 12. I say yes ma'am and yes sir. Okay, think about that. Who's teaching that now? And he was teaching me. That's how much effort he was putting into it. It wasn't like a drill sergeant. He was kind to me. I remember him holding me beside him and putting his arm on my right shoulder, and with his right arm, he'd have his right big old palm when I'm 13. He's like, "Now, son, you know I love you, right?" And what do I say? No, you don't love me. No. I said, yes, sir. So do you understand why I'm doing these things? Because you want what's best for me. Yes, that's exactly right. I do. And you not only do you have to do these things so that you can become the man that you want to be, but you also have to set an example for others, like your brothers. But I believe me, that did not stick. It didn't stick. I tried, and it was there. I was aware of it, and I would, it kind of hung in there. But if I would say a complete statement that I did, he said it, I did it. No, I failed, but I kept trying to do that, and that was the kind of influence that my dad had on me at that age. To take a child and show him how to cut trees, to carry things, to lift up things with your legs, how to turn a screwdriver, how to use a hammer, how to use a handsaw properly, how to measure things, how to look at things to see if you could see what's wrong with them, or how to see the beauty in things, how to raise dogs. He went through a phase where he was wanting to uh, raise blue tick and red bone hounds, if you know what they are. So
those require a lot of training, don't they?
They should have. They eat a lot too, by the way. When you're poor, don't take on hounds to raise. But he had big plans. He had optimism. He had overwhelming amount of optimism. Think about that. Boy, he's in his early 30s trying to teach dogs how to do. He didn't even know how to. He didn't hadn't been around blue tick red bone hounds that much. Maybe when he was a kid. So he's like, um, so yes, we went through phases of different things that we're trying to do. Of course, we had that floor cleaning business for quite a while until he sold it. Um, and we had gotten into a number of things as a family. I think we did some tourist related stuff like basket weaving. Believe me, I wasn't very good at that.
That takes patience.
But I was pretty good. I could do it. I was pretty good at painting rocks. Poor kid. I liked doing it. And so you would like paint rocks and then sell it to the people that have the little tourist spots along the highway scenic 7 they call it now. And so we did those kind of things. We tried that. We also went out into the woods to get ginseng, and at one point I think mayapple too. So traipsing around the woods was and learning what ginseng looks like, and then believe me, when that stuff dries out, wind can blow it around. That's how heavy those roots are. It's like a leaf. It'd be so light, dried out. So we're trying all these things to survive as a family, cutting firewood, and one of the things that he did, he had a friend that we were involved with. Vince Ellison is a very interesting character, very interesting guy. I'm hoping that he's still alive and well. But he and Dad were friends, and they decided to get into horses. So we were at that. They were into buying horses and then trying to fix the problems with those horses and make them better, then turn around and sell them again. That was the idea, at least the way I remember it. And it was interesting time. You could put me on one. I didn't fall off very easily. I had a good seat, evidently. And so it was all this about how to deal with horses and um, buying and selling, fixing cars. And he would still do the union work on occasion, not as much when we had the floor cleaning business. But so now, like I say, I went to a lot of different schools in my the last 9 years of school. So from like the third grade on, I went to 13 schools in 9 years. And at about 15, we decided to leave Arkansas because it was so tough, and go back to Texas, be East Texas, and see if we could make it go there. He had a friend, a long time best friend, who had a concrete business, and he said, "Hey, why don't we get in this together?" And they did really well together. Dad was really good with carpentry and building forms, and this concrete business was doing well. And he had already had a good business. He just wanted somebody to help him, and Dad was a good help. And they've made out well. They end up buying a feed store. They bought a body shop, and they bought a camper franchise, a log cabin franchise. So here I am, a young guy, 15, 16, learning how to pour concrete, build forms for concrete. Uh, his viewpoint was, I don't want you to think of yourself as the boss's son. I want you to work with the other guys, and the other guys mostly were the Mexicans, and they treated me like one of them. I ate with them, I worked with them, I learned work ethic with them. Of course, that wasn't very far from what my dad already taught me, which was why whenever other white men who wanted to do the concrete work went into working with this crew, most of them didn't fit in very well because they just didn't have the work ethic, and it wouldn't, they it was hard pressed to get respect. It took a long time for those people that are working hard to get where they think you're going to make it. They can see the weakness, and when you're working that hard, everybody can see, and you know that you're breaking down. And so my dad didn't just stand by and ignore. He saw those things, and he took great pride in the fact that his boy could at 16 stay in there with all the other Mexicans. And I wasn't as strong as the rest of them, but maybe I was stronger than some, quite a few maybe, even at 16, 17. So he was teaching me uh, how to be strong, how to be tough. And that is kind of stuff that you have to survive, period. There's a lot of heartache that comes with, working hard and still not making it. And so you have to be able to push and push and push and push and stay stubborn and get the job done. Where you can feel, where you're working so hard that you feel the sweat in your nose, like as if you were in a swimming pool. That moisture that's in your nose from working that hard. It's it becomes a part of you. It becomes something that you can hold close to. You can let it go, and get lazy and not have the fortitude that you used to have. But that's what he was doing. Of course, he didn't want me to be abused at all. And I'll give you, for instance, when he was overdoing forms on another job. I was on a very big job in Houston, Texas, and one of the guys that didn't like my dad and didn't therefore didn't like me slid me down. Here, I got a job for you. Slid me down into a hole that's about 10 foot deep. It's probably 4 foot around, a little bigger. It had been raining a lot. He says, "I need you." We already poured concrete down there and put in rebar to tie to, but we need to get all the mud off that concrete that's down there, and before we slide these cages down. So I'm going to slide you down in there, and I want you to scoop out the mud. So throw it out, which is utterly ridiculous now that I think about it. I didn't think anything. I just said yes, sir, and he slid me down by my hand down in there, probably 9 or 10 foot down, and
I
he
bet your dad went.
yeah. So it's in Houston, Texas. It's blistering hot. Um, so he gave me a styrofoam cup to sling the mud out. Okay, and I'm probably 5 foot, and I'm slinging mud 5 foot above me. So anything that might have made it out, some of it was hanging on the sides and sliding back in. And I had probably been in there a couple of hours before my dad found me. And my dad he had a hurt tone in his voice. "Son, why did you get down in here?" What? I said, "No, I forgot his name, Larry or something. They put me down in here." He said, "This is my job." He says, you shouldn't have done this." I said, "Well, Dad, you told me." He said, "No, no, you did good, son. Don't worry about it." He was hurt. He was mad at that guy. But he went out of his way not to lose his temper in front of me. But I do know that there was a lot of big time words, and that guy couldn't work anywhere near my dad. My dad was a 1/3 partner, so that kind of limited how much he could work. So it was one of those times when my dad was making sure that I understood that he did not want me to be abused or hurt, and he went after it. But on the flip side of that, I remember one of the times that, 15 or so, working in the summertime, and we didn't have enough room for everybody to be in the cab. So like there was four of us. After you're looking at a crew cab truck packed in there, it's pouring down rain. So everybody in the back of the truck took plastic and pulled it over, and then wrapped up, and then wind's blowing, and you're going 70 miles an hour down the road. You're trying to keep all that rain from getting to you. But I was one of those guys back there, and I was so proud of that. I didn't think about it in a prideful way, but whenever the truck pulled up, and Dad said, "Okay, son, you come out," and I was not. My dad didn't make me go back there. It was like, I was the younger, and I felt like the older guys should had the privilege to be in the cab. So when Dad pulled up, and I came out of the plastic from in the back of the truck, my mom chewed my dad out. I mean, she chewed him out. They were laughing, all the Mexicans. They didn't get a chance to pull off before my dad was getting chewed out. And my dad was like going to say something. He was trying to say something, and my
Mom was not putting up with it.
she was mad, and I didn't know why Mom was mad. But so that was my last time doing that. She says, "I will not have the son that I've carried for 9 months and that I love so dearly to be sitting in the back of the truck getting rained on." Yeah, and all kinds of really intelligent browbeating went on. You should. What kind of man are you? Let your so. So that was the thing too. Dad always had a romance with Mom for all those years, and he cared about what she thought. Um, so he taught me how, and he stood back sometimes, helping me learn, and he was willing to let me suffer in order for me to learn. Now he was not willing to let me get damaged or hurt badly. It was like, I remember going to a job one time. He was like, "Hey son, don't buy with your money that you've earned. Don't buy that malt from Burger King." I said, "Well, Dad, I like it. I can afford it." He goes, "No, son, it's too hot. Don't buy this. I'm telling you. I'm not telling you you can't. I'm saying you should not buy that shake or whatever it is that Burger King had." Well, he was right, because I was throwing up all over the place because I got overheated.
Oh yeah, if you're working in the summer.
Curdled, and I was throwing up everywhere. Hey, you know what? I kind of listened when my dad said, "Don't do that, son." My dad was always calling me son. If somebody said my outright full name, Philip,
You were in trouble.
I was in trouble. Okay, it was Phil or son. Okay, so and I don't want this to be about me. I want you to understand what he did was, he took me on to these construction sites, and I was able to see how all these things were built.
And it gave you a good start. I mean, that's part of why you have your business. That's why
It has
you
to
can
be,
do all of it.
the credit has to be given to him. My brother said it, Tim said it best. He provided fertile ground for us to grow in.
Mhm.
So he was
By the
teaching
way,
us.
I downloaded those pictures of your mother and your dad.
Oh, did you?
I have them on my phone.
Then what did I tell you
Him with
about?
his big old back ears.
Big ears. Yeah. But he sang to her all the time. And so his best friend soon, well, first I want to tell you another story. I was learning how to get my license when you get your permit. Okay. So I'm learning how to get a license, not with my family car or anything like that. I went to driver's ed, but because they said you needed to. But anyway, I got my permit, And so here's how I'm learning. I'm driving a 1-ton crew cab long wheelbase truck with a 40-foot gooseneck, driving into Houston and in Houston in heavy traffic. And that is a standard. So I'm driving, I'm doing good, and sometimes an automatic. They had multiple trucks. I'm doing good, and everybody's like, it's early in the morning, everybody's passed out, including my dad nodding, and I'm driving this huge truck with all these people like a missile, man. It's like loaded down gooseneck trailer
Oh my God.
and heavy traffic. And then I'm going, I was like, things starting running rough. I said, Dad. He's like, what? I said, Dad, this thing's losing compression. It's like, oh no, son. What? You're out of gas. You should have pulled over for gas. What? You should have told me. I would have. Oh my goodness, we're going to be walking. So, man, yeah, he walked with me and he talked to me. He didn't chew me out and yell at me and call me stupid names or nothing like that. And Dad never did do that. He never called me stupid. He did have some pained expressions like, "Why did you do that?" That would be my. I don't understand, Sonny. Rub his face. I'm trying not to. Now I know he's just trying not to lose his temper because of the things that I did. But that was one of them. That's like we're walking, and we're in an area, the entrance to Roman Forest, just outside of Houston. You think, oh, it's into a subdivision. No, you're talking about 2 miles, 2 miles of driving into that, walking into there to get to a gas station. So yeah, he could have chewed me out the whole way. He did not. And so he's saying that, this is something, whenever you have times like this, you need to learn from it. And that's what I do. Every time something bad happens, I try to learn from it. It's like, hey, so what am I learning here? And I pick it up. So, yeah. So anyway, my dad's business started coming apart because the owner of that uh, concrete business that he was 1/3 partners of decided he none of it was legal, so he was going to take it all. And to tell you the rest of the story, they were best friends, but he ended up losing the feed store right away. It took a while, but he lost the franchise for the campers, and he lost the body shop. It took a while longer. He lost the body shop. He lost the franchise for the campers, and he kept the franchise for the log cabins. That was starting to take off. Well, he kept that, and he kept the concrete business. He ended up moving in. He lost his home, and the business didn't do as well. So you understand, all these things were fall apart for him. And then Dad ended starting over. So when he did, he went to work for another friend of his from way back in Houston, and uh, he was telling me when I was doing all that concrete work, hey, you have to, if you're going to be out on your own, you have to, 1/4 of all of your money will go to rent. Okay. And then you need to buy your own clothing for school because that's going to be the way it is when you get out on your own. I'll take care of your food at this point, but at some point you'll be paying for that too. So, man, clothes are expensive when parents are telling you you need to buy these clothes. You need to have this many. Do I have to have 5 pair of jeans to go to school? Do I have to have 2 pair of shoes? Do really? I like the ones I got. No, you're still growing. You're going to have to get new. Get it with room, and I'd be like, oh, no, get the better quality, get these good clothes. That's what we do for you. You need to do the same for yourself, even when you're paying for it yourself. And then, of course, I wanted to save money for a car. I was like, Dad, I'm trying to get money for cars. Yeah, well, this is how life is. It's not easy, but I managed to save money. I bought a 65 Mustang. He could not believe it. He was so irritated. And I remember to this day, just like could not believe that for $650, I could get a car that I could drive home. It had, he saw it, he said, oh, okay. Yeah, well, we'll figure out a way to get home. No, it drives, Dad. He's like, really? It's got stuff stacked all over it. It's at a junkyard. I was like, yeah. We just got to pull all this stuff off and clean. And the guy said, hey, let me get my stuff out of the back seat and out of the trunk. He was storing stuff in it. It's a junkyard. And I pulled all this stuff up. He aired the tires up for me and took the money and gave me the title, or gave my dad the title. And he says, I don't know, son, if you can drive this down the road. He says, yeah. I said, yeah. Well, it's leaking gas around the carburetor. So we had to tighten up the carburetor and try. Look, it's not leaking that much. I can get it home. And
No.
he's like, here I am, been driving, these gooseneck trailers and trucks. He's like, okay, don't drive fast. I'm going to drive behind you. We'll drive home. So I got home, and of course, I didn't have, they wanted me to have all the insurance, even though it wasn't required then. They wanted me to fix a car up, be totally legal, and pass inspection. So, and they did everything they could to keep me from be able to drive that car to school, because they knew that I was going to be wild when it came to the car too, and they were right. But I did get to drive it a couple of days to school, the last few days of school, and I graduated in 1979, and he was struggling. So we right after school, I went with him to work doing electrical work down in Houston, Texas. So we drove my car. He said, well, son, we'll take your car, and he had a car, but he didn't have to have my car. He said, we'll take your car. That way you get some time and experience driving a car, and I can help you. And it was a standard. And so here he had been teaching me all those many years ago when I was 12 how to drive a Volvo standard and how to drive a tractor. And, of course, it was just trying to make sure that he helped me understand how to handle traffic. And so we drove my car down there many, many days. And then one day we came back from work late, and my car wasn't there. It was gone. Someone had stolen it. So now we're stranded trying to figure out a way to get back home, which was an hour away. And so he called Mom. And of course, I was all bent out of shape. We talked to the police. Eventually, before my mom even got there, that they had a line on where my car was. And so he was always teaching me to be calm. And as time passed, my he took on the same role as my grandmother to teach me that it's not what happens to you that counts, it's how you react to it. And he would pick that phrase up. Listen, it's not what happens to you. Keep calm. You can recover from this. I know it seems insurmountable at this age. So, he was there to put his hand on my shoulder and say, how special life is, even though this bad thing happened. So he was that guy, even when things were bad. He was still there, and he knew that I was brokenhearted about it. But he had to keep going. He had to keep taking care of that family. And at that time, we had my grandmother living with us. She moved in. She wasn't feeling well, and I had a very good relationship with my grandmother, and so that came along. And so they were staying on there was a 2-bedroom mobile home, 4 boys in the main back bedroom. My grandmother had the smaller bedroom, and those two, mom and dad, were sleeping on a hide-a-bed in the living room. You think about that. And that man just kept on. He kept on. He stood by me until one day he said, I'm not going to, you're old enough now. I'm not going to pick you over my wife. You need to understand that from this point on, I will not pick your mother or you over your mother, period. It's not going to happen. So he was right about that. He never did. Um, Mom and dad, I think we end up moving over to further into East Texas, a place called Jasper, Texas, and actually south of that a little bit. And we moved into a big old house. And again, they gave us the four boys the biggest bedroom, and they took one of the other bedrooms. And my grandmother, and they moved the mobile home on that property. And my grandmother was staying in that mobile home. She was fighting breast cancer. So now my dad took on my grandmother, his wife's mother, who was just as sweet a person as you ever meet. And he took that responsibility too. Stepped up, uh, and he was doing electrical contracting, trying to do whatever it is he could. He worked, with my uncle sometimes, and I know that I'm butchering up some of the way things were going. So here we are. All us boys were aware that my dad had a major blow financially, and it probably hurt his pride. We didn't know anything about that, but we knew that bad times were on us, and we were surviving. And so we all dug in and did what we could. Now you got to understand, I was still rowdy and hard to deal with, and still got I still required quite a bit of discipline. But now I'm bigger. Okay, you're not. I'm as big as my father, uh, but I just didn't understand that. It certainly didn't cross my mind that I would take him on or counter what he said. He had that authority. Um, so there was a point where I said, "You're not going to slap me ever again." And he was like, "You need to sit down." And my mom had to tell me to sit down. But I just wasn't going to be hit, like a child anymore. And he knew it. That was the end of it. When there was no more discipline, physical discipline at all. Of course, I also knew that if I messed up, that that would be the end of our relationship, at least until I fixed it. So he would hand me the mechanicking responsibilities. He would oversee, make sure to give me all the tools that I could deal with what he had. He would let me fix certain things and put that responsibility on me. And he was not a slave driver, but he did, say, "I thought you told me you were going to do this or do that." He didn't have to keep after me because I wasn't lazy and I wasn't distracted when you gave me a job, because that was total focus now. Um, so he kept putting that responsibility on me, and I had moved on to another car, '67 Mustang, and he was totally shocked about that one too. uh, Another one I got out of the junkyard and drove it out. Uh, so he let me try different things. Like at one point, I was gathering up chickens where they unloaded them at the place where they butcher them back then, and they unloaded them to a shaker table. Some of them would hop off and run away, and they would gather up against fence, and nobody cared if you went and got them. So I went and got them. I was like, "I'm gonna raise these chickens." Well, those chickens were got so many hormones in them. A lot of them just don't survive, and if you don't do certain things, he was like, "Hey, you need to keep their water above the ground." I didn't know why, because they'll kick dirt into the water and then eat it. They'll drink that dirty water and die. Okay, that's what they do. So you just had to learn. And he let me learn. He gave me hints. This is what you do for fencing. This is what you need to do. Keep the birds away and the animals away. And I kept working and gathering up more chickens up. So looking back at it now, I realized that a lot of that was just he let me learn the hard way. And he would give me suggestions. And if I didn't listen to him totally and do, then I would pay a price. But he knew that price. And he was there to help me whenever it did happen that I had a bad time. So I still had the car with the blown motor that had gotten stolen from him. We found it at a guy who happened to have a whole lot of Mustangs. But, he was a record service that brought it to his place. Imagine that. So, anyway, I had that constant reminder. And then I had another car and I'm fixing it up. I end up getting a deal, wheeling deal like I was, getting a garage in town. And right off the square, it used to be the DeSoto Plymouth dealership, and it was the garage for it. They end up getting that from me so they could expand their business. But at one point, I had the capability of 7, 8, maybe 10 vehicles if I wanted, with the lifts and everything. I was so full of optimism, and he was all about encouraging. You do the best you can, son. Keep working at it. So my dad gave me the ability to see early on that you could have any number of businesses, start them and fail with them, but start them and keep after it and create a business. So that's, I was with my brother Tim, and we were thinking about starting a pool hall. How you like that? Of course, he was smart enough to know we didn't have enough money to pull that off, but we were working on it. We nearly pulled it off in our minds anyway. So that, I'm kind of glad we didn't get into that kind of stuff, because that's a whole nother group of people that I didn't need in my life. So I'm now capable of working other places. I was building awnings, and my dad said, that guy's a pretty good guy. He was stricter than my dad by a long ways, crazy stricter. Matter of fact, I ended up not working for him because he said that if my hair leaned back and it touched my collar, if I could lay my head back and my hair touched that collar, you couldn't work for him. So I had my mom cut my hair. My mom cut my hair. I had my mom cut my hair, and that way she says, "You don't have to do that. I'll have a talk with him." He goes, "No." So I got my hair cut like that. I worked for him one day and said, "Oh, by the way, I quit." It hurt his feelings. And he said, "There ain't no way I can talk you out of this." He kept on trying to convince me. I'm like, "No, Sonny, I don't." And so my dad kind of respected that too. He knew that I would go get another job, and I did. I ended up leaving and going to Austin, Texas area to be with my grandmother on my dad's side, and his dad, her second husband, his name was Errol Lamb. He was a truck driver. Anyway, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about him. He was a major good influence for me early on, and I'd been around him before, and he had a heart attack before I got there and died. He was underneath the truck when he had his problem, and his nitro pills were out of his reach. But for being a diabetic, he had a whole lot of sugar inside of his house whenever they cleaned it out where he stayed. uh, he's like, I'd go to see him in the morning, and he'd go, "Hey, you want a little sugar on your hand?" He puts, it's like, "You're supposed to have that." Don't tell your grandmother. Uh, uh, so I went there after he died, and I was working with my grandmother and not with her. I lived with her, and then got a job at a concrete company where they did a lot of different kinds of things like curbs and bridges, and I spent a lot of time working on one bridge. But I poured forms for all kinds of things. So now, mind you, my dad had that business, so this is all very familiar to me. And but he went and told people around there, "Hey, keep an eye on my son. I'm afraid he's going to get in trouble." And of course, they immediately assumed that I was a troublemaker. He didn't realize he was doing that. But that would be my dad looking in on me, just trying not to tell me. He's like, "Hey, I want you to make good decisions." And um, then one probably a couple of years went by. I was gotten into the drywall business by then. Uh, he's like, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you." So so I would drive over there and every now and then, and which is a 4 hour drive, and go see them because they were my family. And he says like, "I need to talk to you. And what I want you to do is help the family as a so we'll work together and we'll get lift the family up so that we don't have to keep on working like this. What do you think of that?" And as we spent, and I'm talking about brief, he spent hours and hours talking to me about it, and I knew that I was going to lose the discussion. I was going to leave my job and go to work with him in his electrical contracting business. So I did, and I worked for them for a couple 3 years, uh, and he taught me even more how to estimate, how to run crews. He put big jobs underneath my control. A rowdy, temperamental 21-year-old, but that kind of pressure makes coal into diamonds. So he overlooked everything. He was the estimator. He managed to make that business get bigger and bigger. We did a lot of Safeway stores and the shopping centers around them. Uh, Back then, Safeway was expanding big time, and he was getting really good at getting not only the main build out, but the trim out that where they move in all the refrigeration and all those things after the main body of the structure is done. And I was traveling with my brothers, Tim and Rodney, all over the place. I mean, way on over into just below Dallas, Waco, Breckenridge, center of Central Texas, a little further north, and all the way over into East Texas, all the way down into Beaumont, all the way down into Houston. So we were traveling, and it was big. And we took on other grocery stores and other shopping centers. So and at one point, I went from being a foreman on jobs to just being the guy that had two other guys with me, and all we did was go to jobs where they was behind, and we caught them up. So my work ethic was so intense that when I showed up at 21 or 2, people got worried because I was there to change things, and I had the authority to do it. Now, mind you, that is a powerful lot of responsibility to put on somebody, but I knew that I was representing my dad and my family, but so I knew better than to be, really bad, ill mannered. But I was pretty tough and very black and white. Uh, I leave that to him to put that kind of uh, responsibility on there. And I jumped over a situation uh, where we had worked together many times, and I don't have time to tell you all the stories about that. But so he went through that business and did really well, and I finally got to where I was becoming obvious he didn't have me, and I said I want to go back to doing what I was doing in Austin. I'm tired. He says, "No, don't do that, son. I got another job another thing that I want the family to go into, and it was gold and silver mining in Mexico." Okay, I was like, "This is no way. I don't know anything about that. You don't need me. No, I need you, son. I always need you. You're my boy. You're the. If I had 11 of you, I could run any business. And so think about this. I want you to come with me." So the gold and silver mining in Mexico. So we were taking and we moved to a town called Ajo, AJO, which was a copper mining town, not terrible far from the border. I think Lukeville was the name of the border crossing. nothing place. And we took heavy equipment down there and we loaded up the tailings, which we had permission rights to, big bulldozers and all those things we had down there. We would grind up the rubble, put it on rubber mats that had cyanide leaching. Sounds dangerous, right? Well, it is. So it would spray over all that rubble and pull the silver and gold out and go through carbon filters and collect. But I worked with that for probably a year, doing that business with him, and I was just like, I'm burnt out. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't, you don't need me. You've got plenty of Mexican partner friends, and you got all these other people, and you could tell he was upset. But he said, I respect that, but you got a part of this. So he had already progressed during that time period. We had the electrical business that the banks were willing to loan him $1 million. I went with him. And he said, I want to take you with me. So that was before the gold and silver mining business. They said, we will loan you, $1 million or a little more dollars. So this is somebody who, when I pulled up, who didn't have, he was living in a rental. Okay. And he let it be known that it was possible. And that is what I want to give my dad credit for. And I'm running out of time even now. But, what I would say that is my dad's biggest blessing to me is he made it clear to me that everything was possible. I don't think he meant it that way. I don't think he set out to go on these journeys so he could teach me, but he did. I understood the flaws that he had. I understand them now. I have long since understood my dad's flaws. I do to this day, and I understand mine, and I know my children know that I have mistakes and flaws. But my dad made it possible for me to see that anything is possible. Everything is possible, and that is, the most powerful thing that my dad did for me. He stayed with my mom until she died of cancer. And then he ended up, quite a while, several years later, he ended up marrying another woman that was a friend of the family. And he stayed with her until he died. So, the guy's a solid guy. You can only hope you get a father that is that good. Everything was possible for me. Like, he could have made me out as the biggest troublesome kid ever, and that's what I was. But he didn't make me feel that way. He made me feel like I could do those things that he set out to teach me to do. And that is what I owe him. He taught me how to be more than what I was, and that everything was possible. And I can only hope that I teach my children that everything is possible. There's nothing more pure than, hoping that your children do better than you do and teaching them that it's possible. That's what I hope to do, the same. To teach my boys that everything is possible and that they can be better than me. They can be more than me. That's what my dad did for me. I just want to put that specifically on him. He taught me to be more than what he could be, maybe. I'm still never the electrician that he was, not even close. I mean, I'm not a shadow of what he was as an electrician. But he taught me that, you know, he could step into doing other things. So could I. Uh, so he was a longtime friend, albeit a father, a longtime friend all those years after I left. So I want to leave with you the idea that I have is that my father, like my brother Tim said, provided the ground for which I could grow on. He provided the circumstances to teach me how the world works. He could have just worked in an office and been a good dad too, but I would never have experienced anything but office work. I would not have known how things were built and how businesses come to be and all the turmoil that comes with running people and dealing with people, losing businesses and seeing failure and getting over it. I would never have learned those things. But instead, because of the path he took with me, with him, he taught me all those things. Where am I going to learn that at? What school is going to teach me that way? Only his life could have taught me that. And I owe him. And I will owe him until I'm gone. So I give total straight up props to my dad for being the guy that he was. Okay. He was flawed. He had his problems, but he was a good father who left me with great foundation, taught me very, very moral things. So I just wanted to take that time, and I am knowing I'm taking up your time if you're watching, but that is my tribute to my father. And if I choose to, I'll let you know about him before. In the future, I have. Future, I will, and in the past, I have. So I'm not through ever talking about my dad. He did a lot of good things for his life. So that is me spending the time to tell you. Thank you for being here. Again, you guys have every ability to ask questions at any given time. So I'm going to let you go, but we're going to be doing the same thing on TikTok at 10 p.m. tomorrow on Thursday. We're doing this Ask Me Anything on Wednesdays on YouTube at 8 p.m. So Thursdays at 10 p.m. on TikTok. Until then, guys, come up with any questions. That's when you can see us.